Okay, so what Butch means to me, I kind of feel that Butch and Femme are kind of like archetypes. It's important for me to identify them as like models to draw upon and different kinds of things like that, rather than anything limiting. Like being Butch kind of is a descriptor of some of the things I do. It's not a descriptor of the things I don't do. So like, for example, I know plenty of people will agree with me, but I did the alterations on this vest, and that does not make me less Butch. And I did the embroidery on this bag, and that does not make me less Butch. And I can even wear a dress, and then I'm just a Butch in a dress. And yeah, it's hard to pin down exactly, because it's a model that each individual person can take and twist and adapt in what fits right.
Okay, I'm Brynn. I guess what Butch means to me a lot of times is sort of more like an attitude and a style, and for me it's very freeing. It's kind of gives me the ability to do really whatever I want, to really, you know, stand strong in the face of a lot of society, which, you know, wants to regulate what I do and don't do. So Butch to me is a word of freedom. It's a word of resistance and strength that I can draw from in many aspects of my life, in which I am, you know, made to feel less of something. But to me, what I draw from it is sort of an attitude and an ethics of, you know, being myself and being true to myself at all times, and not worrying what other people have to say or what other people are defining me as. So that's really the essence of Butch for me, and that makes it not anywhere near a limiting factor. It makes it part of my freedom of expression and an integral part of it. So.
I think I forgot to do name and pronouns.
Oh yes.
So I'm Tobi, and the short answer is I go by she, her pronouns. But in spaces where my woman identity is not questioned, it's fun to toss in gender-neutral pronouns at times too.
Yeah, my name's Brynn. I go by usually gender-neutral pronouns, they, them, zero, or feminine pronouns, she, her. So like usually, again, in spaces where she, her tends to be a shorthand for me, just of getting people to recognize me, but I do enjoy gender-neutral pronouns and gender-neutral language.
Okay, I'm Twiggy. I use she pronouns. Quick note, I think it seems pretty ridiculous that this would be a place where someone would say that she pronouns are feminine pronouns. I'm not really feminine, I use she pronouns. Butch, to me, I've been thinking a lot about it lately, ever since I got asked to be here, and it's hard for me to relate to Butch and my Butch identity without feeling like I'm thinking about it from a perspective of femphobia, and that feels really shitty, so I don't really know what to say right now. Sometimes I feel like my Butch identity is a form of positive masculinity. Other times I feel as though it's a lack of femininity. I don't really know how to talk about it, but I know that I identify with Butch very strongly, and it just feels right to me, but I can't really put my finger on why it feels right to me, or what about Butch identity attracts me, but I really strongly identify as Butch, and I definitely have to agree with what Tobi was saying about doing things that aren't stereotypically masculine. I wear skirts all the time, and one of the things I wear very often is a skirt, and I actually feel sometimes more butch in that skirt than I do in pants. So yeah, I've been really harshly deconstructing my own butch identity lately, and it makes me feel really uncomfortable, but also like I'm doing something really important that I need to do to keep my identity in check and evolving and away from femphobia.
I'm Una. My pronouns are she and her, and what butch means to me is that it's a rejection of conventional masculinity, in that I feel like butch doesn't necessarily have to be like this stereotype thing of like someone dressed in like a flannel shirt and like loose jeans and stuff. Sorry. And I feel like I can wear, I identify with butch loosely in that I identify with like non-conventional masculinity. So it's just butch is kind of the only term that I see that actually like fits loosely with it. And I tend to like paint my nails very odd colors. This is kind of a simple thing. And I tend to wear lots of eyeliner and kind of usually get read as being femme. But I feel like my butchness tends to come out when I am feeling, when I need to be empowered, or when I need to feel like I need to have like strength to draw upon. And yeah, that's what butch means to me.
I want to touch on the issue that two of you brought up of role models, because I feel like that's a really significant issue. And like, I first started questioning whether or not I was trans when I was 16, and the only image I had of a trans woman was pretty much the like replicating 1950s femininity. It was just like, I don't want to do that. I guess transitioning's not for me. And then later when I came out as genderqueer, also, you used the term CAMAB, coercively assigned male at birth. That there's, like, in the genderqueer community around me, everyone was coercively assigned female at birth. And I had zero role models for what it would look like to be genderqueer and having been assigned male at birth. And so like I had role models, but if I dressed like them, then I would just have, I did dress like them, and I was just seen like, just seen as a cis guy really. And that was hard. And the one funny story is my first trans conference was Gender Odyssey, the FTM conference in Seattle, and I ran into a few trans women there, and it hit me. I was like, of course, to find trans women like me, I should go to the FTM conference. There were three of us. We got in a corner. We started talking about how, yeah, I'm really looking forward to growing breasts so I can bind them, and like performing as drag kings and stuff like that, and like. And I was really lucky because my main trans mentor was a feminist trans man, and I didn't realize his roots until several years later, but he actually came out after performing as a drag king for a while in a troupe that was predominantly trans women drag kings. And so like that's my roots, and it's really useful to know that history, even if it's not like widely spread, because I remember like, you know, several years after that, I saw someone online saying like, I'm a trans woman and I'm a drag king and I'm the first ever to do it. And I was like, you know, it feels that way, and I know it feels that way. But there have been a decent number of us.
Talking about gender role models, I don't think I have had any gender role models in my life up until maybe 4 or 5 months ago. Honestly, before then I cannot think of a single person that I would have ever identified as a gender role model, even through many, many months, even through over a year of being trans, through many months of identifying as genderqueer and then identifying as genderqueer and a woman as a bigendered identity, and then it was just until recently when I dropped the genderqueer and was just like, no, I'm just a butch woman, that I started to realize who my gender role models are. And like me, they're people who I don't really read as fitting into a normative idea of what butch is, of like the flannels and loose jeans and boxers and shaved head, which is beautiful, don't get me wrong, it's not me. Mostly fictional characters, Tank Girl from the comic books and the movie, Nico from punk band Star Fucking Hipsters. She's a singer. She is amazing. Lisbeth Salander, the star of the Millennium Trilogy, which is the girl who played Fire, the girl with the dragon tattoo, and the girl who kicked the hornet's nest. She's absolutely amazingly hot and one of my gender role models. Any others?
I can't tell you about your gender.
Yeah, I'm sure there are more, but those are the 3 main ones.
So, I don't really have any gender role models. I kind of feel like I'm navigating this on my own, and like I would try to imagine myself as maybe like out there being someone's role model, but I mean I'm a terrible role model. I'm kind of I feel like I'm the example of what not to do, and it's just like, this is why you don't be an anarchist, this is why you don't date queers, this is why you don't, you know, get your head, go and run off and move across the country with every hot person who talks to you. Actually, can say that the one person I have looked up to was when I didn't know any other butch people, and this person was living in LA, and she was working as a piercing artist, and I kind of saw her pictures because a friend was like, look at this super hot butch person that I used to date, and I was like, hi there, and then she was like, oh god, you're really cute, you should move to LA, and about a day later I was in LA.